It's really hard to know how to start this video because some of you would have come from volume 1, which was Mexico City, and some of you might have just typed Oaxaca into YouTube. Either way, it doesn't really matter. I'm super happy to have you here and I hope that you enjoy what I have to show you. This video is not travel advice and it is not travel tips. This is a story about me, how I saw Oaxaca, and is designed to entertain you and encourage you to get out into the world and have your own experiences. So there's only one thing left to say, and that is vamos a Oaxaca. I think I said that right. First thing I did was book a hotel with a swimming pool so that I could take some time and just relax. Yeah, no, this isn't going to be a video about how I was swimming in a pool for 3 days because that would not be that interesting. Hotel Victoria is on the side of a rather large hill, and I thought it would be a good idea to get up in the morning, hike it to capture the sunrise. Now, the only thing is that sunrise is, well, it's at sunrise. I got up at 5 a.m. in the dark and I started walking the streets of Oaxaca, up some of probably actually the steepest streets that I have ever seen in my life. I continued up this path to try and get a spot to see the sunrise over Oaxaca. It wasn't long before I realized the sun was actually coming up, so I had to really pick up my pace and try and find somewhere, but I just couldn't do it. I was crouching low down and pushing my way through the undergrowth off the path. I got a cactus needle stuck in my leg and I'd pretty much given up. I carried on around the path and eventually came across this circular concrete structure. I climbed it and I managed to get the shot over the city, but to be honest, I really, really would have loved to have a shot of the city from night to day. But as with all of these adventures, unplanned things, going out there and just doing, it's not going to be perfect every time, but it was still beautiful. As I came down the mountain, someone stopped me and he tried to tell me something. And I said to him, look, I'm sorry, I really don't understand. So I got out my phone and he typed this in to Google Translate. The translation from Spanish to English didn't entirely make sense, but he had a smile in his face and he seemed quite reassuring. But if anyone watching this speaks Spanish, can they perhaps have a guess at what this person was trying to tell me? So after a few days of breakfast buffets, I descended down into Oaxaca and booked in at my hostel. Oaxaca felt and looked more rural than Mexico City. There's no metro, there's no skyscrapers, the buildings are quaint and super colorful. When I arrived, I thought there was a carnival or fiesta in full swing. But I soon realized it was a wedding and they were parading through the town and everybody was out celebrating. The bride, the groom, these giant puppets, band, all the guests. With many things that I see and experience in other countries, Mexico particularly, I start comparing it to how we do it in the UK. And I tell you what, we need to up our game. I might disappoint some of you here because you might be thinking, oh, he went to Oaxaca, there's no way he missed It's a waterfall. In fact, I don't know what it is because I didn't go. So I asked the hostel owner if he could recommend somewhere else I could explore on my own. And he pointed at a place called San Sebastian de la Grutas. I've just walked to the bus depot in Oaxaca. I booked a minibus to take me out of town at 9 a.m. There's some people over there, they're pointing at me, so I better go and introduce myself. I'm not sure if cars or vehicles in Mexico have to pass any tests to make sure that they're road legal. I'm definitely not sure whether this one was actually sponsored by Nike, but I did give the tire a quick kick check and jumped in. Throughout this 3.5 week trip to these places in Mexico, I'd been struggling with knee pain. And whilst I was in this collectivo on the way to San Sebastian, I received a phone call from my doctor that said that the results of my MRI had come in and that I had a torn meniscus in my right knee. And the reason I'm saying this now is because it became relevant at San Sebastian. After an hour or so of driving, the driver dropped me off, and I was really starting to get that feel of rural Mexico because it felt like I was in the middle of nowhere. One of the main attractions for San Sebastian de la Grutas is its giant underground cave. Sadly, due to the diagnosis and what was already a pretty painful leg, I made the decision just to see the cave from its entrance. One thing I wanted to find before I left was a waterfall, but don't get your hopes up because I didn't find one. What I did find though was a little river, and when I followed it for long enough, I did find a small still that looked big enough to get in. Once I'd stopped my mind wondering what was potentially swimming around me in this small, single person sized eddy in a river in the middle of rural Mexico, it was quite a relaxing moment. I'd spent a couple of hours at San Sebastian, and as I was waiting for the collectivo to pick me up, a car pulled up next to me and offered me a lift back to Oaxaca. Now, I don't really want to have a discussion about hitchhiking. Everybody's going to have a different opinion on it. I'll leave that to the comments section. But I saw this couple on the tour for the caves. It was a man and a woman, and for whatever reason, I felt safe. I felt like I could get in this car and these people would take me back to Oaxaca. Turns out he was a policeman. As we came back into Oaxaca, I tried to pay him and he just refused. So I got out my Google Translate and I said to him, "Un policía que no aceptara un soborno." At which point, luckily, he laughed. The rest of my week in the city brought more street parties, mezcal, and more friends, foreign and domestic. I was happy to be on the receiving end of more Mexican kindness and hospitality in a city where community and tourism coexist. And just like in Mexico City, I had only scratched the surface. And I hope that this little story or little piece of my experience has been a decent homage to what a wonderful city it is. As always, guys, thank you so much for your time today because it is so precious. I hope you've enjoyed this story. I hope you've enjoyed this footage. And if you have, hit the like and subscribe button, share it with a friend, and also leave me a comment or leave me a question because I love talking to you guys in the comment section. I'm going to be back in around 2 or 3 weeks to share with you the final part of my Mexico trilogy when I went to a place called Tulum and Valladolid. I'll see you then.